It was raining heavily the night David arrived in the small town of Blackridge. The roads were empty. Streetlights flickered in the distance. Thunder echoed through the hills surrounding the town. David had been driving for nearly 6 hours after a long business trip. He was exhausted and just wanted a place to sleep. As he entered the town, he saw an old hotel standing beside the road. A faded sign flickered above the entrance. Ravenwood Hotel. The building looked old, very old. But at that moment, David didn't care. He grabbed his suitcase and walked inside. The lobby was quiet. Too quiet. A dim chandelier hung from the ceiling, barely lighting the room. Behind the front desk sat an elderly receptionist. He looked up slowly as David approached. His face was pale, his expression emotionless. "Room for the night?" the old man asked in a low voice. David nodded. "Yes, please." The receptionist opened a large, dusty book and wrote David's name inside. Then he handed him a key. "Room 307. David noticed something strange. The key looked ancient, heavy metal with the number 307 carved into it. The receptionist leaned forward slightly. "Do not leave the room after midnight." David laughed awkwardly. "Why not?" The old man didn't smile. "You just shouldn't." David felt uncomfortable. But he was too tired to argue. He took the key and walked toward the elevator. The elevator creaked as it slowly moved upward. Floor 1, floor 2, floor 3. The doors opened. The hallway was dark and narrow. Only a few dim lights flickered above the doors. David walked down the hallway until he found room 307. He unlocked the door. The room looked normal. A bed, a small table, an old mirror, and a window facing the dark forest. Behind the hotel, David placed his bag down and lay on the bed. Within minutes, he fell asleep. Suddenly, a loud knock woke him up. David opened his eyes. The room was dark. He checked his phone. 12:17 a.m. Another knock, slow, heavy, knock, knock, knock. David sat up. "Hello?" No answer, then knocking. Stopped. David walked to the door and opened it. The hallway was empty, silent. He looked left, then right, nothing. David sighed and closed the door. Probably another guest, he muttered. He lay down again. But just as he began falling asleep, he heard something else. Footsteps, slow footsteps in the hallway, dragging. Like someone walking very slowly. Step, step, step. The footsteps stopped outside his door. Then something terrifying happened. The doorknob slowly began to turn. David's heart started racing. The door was locked, but the knob kept turning, slowly, violently, as if someone outside was trying to enter. David shouted, "Who's there?" The knob suddenly stopped moving. Silence returned. The next morning, David walked down to the lobby. The receptionist sat behind the desk again. Exactly the same as before. David walked up to him. "Someone tried to enter my room last night." The receptionist looked confused. "What room?" "Room 307. The old man stared at him, then slowly said something strange. "Sir, we don't have a room 307. David frowned. "Yes, you do. You gave me the key." The receptionist shook his head. "This hotel only has 3 floors. David felt confused. "I know. I stayed on the 3rd floor." The receptionist stood up slowly. "Follow me." They walked toward the elevator. The old man pressed the button for the 3rd floor. The doors opened. The hallway looked completely different. There were only doors 301 to 306, number 307. David's stomach tightened. That's impossible. He ran down the hallway, but the door he had entered last night was gone. Only a blank wall stood there. David pulled the key from his pocket. His hands trembled. The number 307 was still carved into it. He showed it to the receptionist. The old man's face suddenly turned pale. He whispered quietly. "That room," David looked at him. "What about it?" The receptionist spoke slowly. "That room burned down 20 years ago." David felt cold. "What do you mean?" The old man sighed. "There used to be another hallway here. Room 307 was at the end. One night, a fire started in that room. A man staying there never escaped." David's voice shook. "So where did I sleep last night?" The receptionist looked at him with fear in his eyes. "That's the strange part." He pointed to the wall. "Room 307 doesn't exist anymore." David slowly looked down at the key in his hand. But something had changed. The number on the key was no longer 307. It now read 307, forever occupied.